Hi everyone, welcome back to the Dear Tober podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Cass. This is Tober, and this week he has little fox friends.
He does. Amara has a little fox, and so she decided to give it to me to bring to work. And I thought, how fitting, a fox and a fox.
It just looks like a big mommy fox and a little baby fox.
It does.
Yeah.
Super cute. So, it is the much awaited episode.
Yes. So this week we are discussing Tober's father.
Sperm donor, you mean?
Yeah. I was like, I know she's gonna say it. Should have just started with that.
To be fair, that's what he is.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to start. It's going to be a 2-part episode.
Yes. Because there is a lot to unpack. We're probably going to get sidetracked as usual, but probably more so. Because I'm sure a lot of little side tidbits are going to come up. I also come with receipts. Yes. So if I need to refer back to anything or read straight from my source, I can do so.
We're ready?
I have 80 screenshots saved in an album.
80?
Yeah. 80.
So you are ready.
Yeah, and that was just like the end of our relationship.
And for the viewers, are we going filtered? Are we going unfiltered?
What do you mean filtered?
Are you dropping all of the tea?
I'm going to drop all the tea. I'm just not going to use names.
Yeah, we're going to call him Chuck because fuck Chuck.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's what this episode is going to be called.
Yeah.
Fuck Chuck. Or What the Chuck. One of these episodes is going to be What the Chuck and the other one is Fuck Chuck.
Because fuck Chuck.
Because, yeah, fuck Chuck. Oh, okay.
Well, on that note, let's get into it.
Yay.
So, I guess we should start this episode with how you guys met.
Yes. Okay. So, I have had good luck on Bumble before.
That's to be left up to interpretation.
I mean, my first Bumble relationship was a good relationship, and it went well until the end, obviously.
Until it didn't.
But, like, it was one of my better relationships. We can at least...
But the bar isn't very high.
Okay. Anyway. I thought I'd give it another shot. Out of all the different ways I've tried dating, Bumble was, I think...
The most convenient?
Well, I really liked the way it was set up. Women had to message the men first, so I wasn't getting all these, like, unsolicited messages. And I think there was a lot of, like, good detail to the profiles that you had to fill out.
Okay. See, like, Bumble is after my time.
Yeah.
I was in the days of, like, POF and Tinder.
Yeah.
But Bumble, all that stuff is, like...
Yeah. No, I had a lot of good detail that made it pretty easy to figure out if you were going to mesh well with someone right off the bat. You also have to, like, verify that you're a real person.
Oh.
So you're most likely not getting catfished on there. So yeah, I thought I'd give it another shot. I matched with Chuck and we started to message a little bit. Pretty quickly he asked to do a phone call. Because, you know, it's one thing to message someone, a whole other thing to be able to talk to them, like, I guess not face to face, but on the phone. And even that went well. So then we made plans to go on a date, which also went pretty well. And yeah, things kind of just went from there. Pretty quickly we got into a relationship. So I had met him, it was like around Christmas 2023, and by New Year's 2024 we were in a relationship. We usually hung out in his car.
In front of your mom's?
In front of my mom's. He would stop in so we could hang out for like an hour in the car. He would see me after work. We would have movie dates in the back of his car, so he would get his couch cushions from his like couch in his bedroom and set up the back seat. We had like blankets, we had snacks, we would have my laptop to watch a movie, or we would go on a date. And the reason we hung out in the back of his car is because
That's where Tober was conceived.
yes, is because he had moved back in with his parents after his last relationship to kind of get his life back together. And his mom didn't want this new girl coming into their home and whatnot. And I don't think his family was really ready to meet a new girl after his last relationship, especially knowing that I already had a son. And that was what made ending his last relationship so hard, is because that girl had a son too that everyone had gotten attached to. So in that aspect, I get it. But it was also winter. So
I think we need to rewind a little. Our viewers won't know this yet because the episodes with your mom haven't aired yet.
yeah.
At this point in December 2023 to, I want to say, 3/4 way through your pregnancy for Tober, you and your mom were talking,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't the greatest relationship.
No,
It was
and
pretty held back compared to where you were at and where you're at now.
oh yeah, and I was living in her house by this point with Silas, and so I also didn't feel like I could have him in my parents' house because I didn't really talk about the fact that I was dating much.
Let alone that you're dating online.
Yeah, let alone dating online, because, you know, dating online is way, way after my mom's time in dating. And so I think to her it was
It's scary.
scary and unusual. And so I was like, okay, well, I can't tell her I met someone online and then asked to have him in her house. So pretty much, yeah, it was the occasional date or hanging out in his car. Yeah, so in the end, that's where Tober ended up being conceived, because, like, where else where else were we gonna do it?
Okay, but now I have to ask, like, details. Like, how in his car were you guys cuddling up with blankets and stuff? Like, did you, like, was it a big car? Was it a little car?
So it was like an average sized car, and we would push the front seats up so that there was enough space to fit his couch cushions
Okay.
next to the seat, so that it actually made like a pretty decent sized bed where we were comfortably laying next to each other. And then, yeah, we'd have the car running for a while to get the heat. And we had tons of blankets, so we were never actually cold back there, despite it being winter. It was actually pretty cute and cozy, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we didn't have good dates or like we didn't have good chats. Yeah. But we did like go out and do other cute things. You know, we visited,
But how many times did you pay?
Actually, we were pretty good about splitting.
Oh, you
Our
were?
first date, he paid for everything.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so we took his dog to the pet store, and we gave her a bath and whatever, just so I could get acquainted with his dog too. Then we went bowling. We got some drinks beforehand. Obviously, we did a lot of our backseat movie dates, but he would get takeout or I would get takeout. We would both get snacks. So, like, splitting things wasn't an issue.
At that point?
Yeah, and, like, he had a job, like, for the first couple months. And I was working a full-time job and a part-time job. So, also making decent money. So, that wasn't really the problem. So, like, while there was a lot of flaws and red flags, I wouldn't consider that one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, I guess, fast forwarding.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. But, yeah, in the beginning, I wouldn't say that was
So at the beginning,
an
like, it
issue.
wasn't necessarily a red flag. It
No.
wasn't anything that you were kind of worried about. It wasn't, there was nothing yet that was, like, making you think, like...
Exactly. Yeah, no. The only issue was like his mom not wanting me in the house, but I could also understand
Oh, I could
why.
understand that too.
Yeah.
Like, especially considering that his ex had a child and, like, all of that stuff. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we both know that it's hard not to get attached to a kid.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I got that. And then, you know, he did start opening up about his last relationship and then, you know, issues that he had with his mom, and they also had a rocky relationship. But again, you know, I also had a rocky relationship with my mom. I also had issues with exes. I'm not gonna like
no, but at that
sit
time,
there.
you were also kind of a red flag.
Exactly. And like those are like normal things these days. Who doesn't have a shitty relationship with an ex or a shitty relationship with a parent? So I also wasn't going to see that as like a red flag necessarily. I think the first red flag was when he got arrested.
Was it when he got arrested or when you found out that his neck tattoo was said kid's birthday?
Yes. Okay. I actually...
Because that's...
a red flag. I remember his dating profile did have a picture of the neck tattoo. And I hadn't really ever asked because you assume it's someone who's passed away or it's just a significant date in your life. I don't think I even really found out what the date was until after.
Because it's in Roman numerals, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sitting here decoding it, trying to figure out what the date is and realizing it's only like 4 years ago.
It doesn't look like a bad tattoo. Like, it's well done. I'll give him that.
Yeah, tasteful tattoo. So I never thought to ask, like, the significance of it, I guess, which I probably should have, but that's on me. Yeah, so he got arrested. He was out one night with some coworkers, and I think it was like Dooley's or something they went to. It was next to a strip club. I remember checking his location being like, you're next to a strip club? Are you going to the strip club? Yeah, so they were just going out to celebrate his birthday. And then at one point, I just stopped hearing from him. But his location was still set to the pool hall they were at all night through to the next morning. Then I found out the reason that I had stopped hearing from him was because this is his story, okay? His story is that he was driving home and getting onto the highway, his car hit black ice and spun out into a snowbank. While trying to pull his car out of the snowbank, a cop pulled up and tried to help him. But because his car had crashed into a snowbank getting on the highway, the cop was like, if I'm going to do my job, I'm going to have to breathalyze you. So they breathalyzed him and realized that because he only had his G2, he was above the limit. Had he had his full license, he wouldn't have been above the limit and it would have been fine. But because he didn't have a full license, he was above the limit, which means his car got impounded, he was arrested, and he was brought to the drunk tank for the entire night.
But then why was his why was his phone still pinging at the pool hall?
Because he left his phone behind, apparently.
But he had his phone the next time he saw you.
Yeah, so he had to go back and get it. So he spent the night in the drunk tank. In the morning, he was allowed to call someone. He called his parents to go get him, and that's when they had to go pick up his phone.
Okay.
Which at the time
made sense
because he hadn't given me a reason to like not believe him. But I remember talking to you and being like, the math isn't totally mathing.
To me, it's the phone being at the pool hall all night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't necessarily make sense It doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, telling the girl that you just started dating that you just got arrested for drunk driving also doesn't make sense.
So to me, if you're not actually drunk, because apparently they did the whole like sober testing on him where you're walking in a straight line and you're reciting the alphabet. He passed everything but the breathalyzer. So to me, why are you in the drunk tank all night and you don't get your first phone call until the next morning if you're actually okay? You're not drunk and belligerent. Then why are you in the drunk tank all night?
I thought that they had to give you like access to legal counsel within reasonable time as well.
Yeah. But then I also remember like this supposedly happened at like 3 a.m. Right?
I mean, we're not police officers, we're not detectives, we're not lawyers.
Yeah.
So we can't disprove or prove anything. It's just all a little fishy.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like I said, why would you tell a girl that you just started dating this story if it wasn't true?
Yeah. Why tell me at all?
Unless the truth was worse.
That's what we had thought, because he also told me that his charge wasn't a DUI because it was his first charge of the kind. He had been arrested before for stunt driving and like dangerous driving because he had driven his car into a tree on purpose. But because this was his first charge of this kind, it wasn't a DUI, it was whatever comes before a DUI.
I remember you had said it and I was like, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
DWI?
Something like that. So again, like I'm not a cop or lawyer, detective, so I kind of just went with it. And I remember talking to you and a few other friends, and you all basically said, like, it's your choice to believe him and continue the relationship or to just call it quits right then. But again, like, that was the first time something weird like that had happened, and he hadn't given me a reason not to believe him. So I was like, shit happens, right? Like, I've dated a drug addict who tried to sell me to a drug dealer for drugs.
I feel like that's a whole other episode that we're going to have to do now.
But, like, comparatively, shit happens. If you weren't actually drunk and it was literally just because you didn't have your full license, then what am I going to do? Like, shit on you for that? Like, I've been with people who have done way worse. So to me, it was like, okay, shit happens. But things just snowballed from there because his car got impounded and then his license got suspended and then he had a court date and then it was, okay, you're going to have to do like a sober driving course within 6 months and then you can have your license back, or you're either going to have to like wait a year and get a breathalyzer installed in your car so that your car doesn't actually start until you've used the breathalyzer.
And he had opted out for the second.
Yeah, he wanted to do the course so that he could get his license back.
I thought that he had to have the breathalyzer in his car.
See, the story kept changing. That's where I'm getting at. The story kept changing.
I remember he had told me
Mm-hmm.
that his car was going to take a little bit of extra time because he had to have the breathalyzer installed.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought that he had taken the second option. And
yeah, so this is what he was told, but then he did go to court and was told he would have to do both. So he'd have to do the course and he would have to do the breathalyzer thing. But once he was able to complete the course and pay for the breathalyzer to be installed, then he can have his car or his license back. But then it changed again.
That to me doesn't sound like a lesser charge.
Yeah. Then it changed to Well, I can't do the course until September because that's the next available one in this area. And then the breathalyzer is still really expensive, but then he found out the breathalyzer he can pay like a month to month thing. But then it was, okay, well, I actually have to wait an entire year despite doing the course and paying for the breathalyzer. My license is just gone for a year. So how many times at that point has the story changed? 4 times? 5?
I thought you would get papers from the court. And
Yeah,
then...
so he did get them. And he had a lawyer and everything. And, again, story kept changing. So I'm not actually sure. Maybe he really did have a DUI. I don't know.
Which means that his alcohol would have been a lot higher than with a DWI. And it would explain why he left his phone behind. Because he was probably too drunk to even remember where his phone was at the time.
Yeah, so, again, I don't have the paperwork. I'm not a cop, a detective, or a lawyer. So I can't say for sure what the real story was, what the real charge was, whatever.
But we're also going to get into a whole other facet of this where, was it alcohol or was it something else?
Exactly. So, again, we had only been dating, like a month at this point. So I'm really just going based off of the person I think I know. Which, a month into a relationship, you don't know someone that well. So yeah, I mean, I chose to keep the relationship going. And not long after, I was taking a pregnancy test at work.
I don't know if I have ever actually asked you this question, but were you already pregnant at the time that the DUI happened? Wait, you would have been, because if he was conceived in the car.
Yeah. So the thing is, his car was impounded for a certain amount of time, and then his stepdad paid to have the car taken out of impound so he wouldn't be paying interest and stuff. Then he paid his stepdad back. So the car was sitting in his parents' driveway, and we would still have dates in the back of the car, but we couldn't actually physically drive the car anywhere. So honestly, I don't remember. Everything's kind of a blur now, the exact timeline of things, but I do know that Tober was conceived sometime in February or end of January, because I found out end of February, but I was only a few weeks along at that point. And then a couple of weeks later, I got laid off.
Yeah, I'm going based off of the girls' birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
Because the girls are both October babies.
Mm-hmm.
And Mar was actually due in November.
So Tober was due November also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, because he was due around my birthday.
Yeah.
Originally. So yeah, it would have been early to mid-February.
Yeah. So, and yeah, like I said, I wasn't far along when I found out. I was very early. So I kind of jumped on getting to the doctor to confirm it and getting the referral for an OB because I'd be high risk again with diabetes. It wasn't ever like a question in my mind if I was going to keep him or not, though. My last few experiences with pregnancy were not good ones, and I knew that I did want more kids. And so my thought was, well, like, my last experiences weren't good. I'm not going to purposely terminate this one and have another, like, shitty pregnancy experience.
Is it safe to say that at the time as well, when you found out that you were pregnant with Tober, that you were also looking at a way to sever the tie with Silas's dad, like the emotional tie? And so maybe keeping Tober was a way of subconsciously, like, drawing that line, like, firmly in the sand?
Yeah, because I knew that he was never going to be happy with me starting a family with somebody else. But also I was always, I guess, yeah, like subconsciously trying to replace him and not replace Silas, but like replace this relationship and this bond I had with someone else because we had a child together.
But also, while that is true,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, Silas's dad has been very outwardly possessive over you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys weren't together for very long, and you had his name tattooed on you.
Mm-hmm.
He made it pretty clear, even after you guys broke up, that you were always going to have to look at that, and that you were even looking at
Yeah.
Silas, that
He didn't want me to get rid of the tattoo. And that, you know, he's to this day he makes comments about how Silas is his twin, and so he makes jokes about how I have to see his face every day when I look at Silas. So I'm like, well, thank God I thought you were attractive then, where I'd be looking at an ugly kid, I guess. Like, Silas is not ugly by any means.
No.
He's a cutie pie. But he's also my son, and he's 5, so of course I'm going to think that.
I mean, even Silas's dad, I mean, he's my cousin, so I'm not going to sit here saying, like, oh. But, like,
He's not an ugly guy.
he's an attractive guy when he cleans himself up. I mean, he's scruffy half the time because of work and all of that
But
stuff.
I do like scrubs, so.
I mean, you also like homeless.
But yeah, I mean, by no means is he an ugly guy. So
No, he's not.
I tell him straight up, yeah, well, it's a good thing you're attractive and our kid is cute. Like,
He also knows he's...
oh, he knows he's a good-looking guy.
So, when you think of Silas's dad,
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of refer to, like, a scruffier Bieber.
I mean, he's got the swag going on too.
It's like the swaggy clothing and like the tattoos and
The blue eyes.
the blue eyes with like the smirk, and yeah, I always thought that he kind of gave like
Scruffy Bieber.
Scruffy Bieber.
Yeah, for sure.
So that kind of gives the viewers an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But as a true Bieber, very remember how he was with Selena? How like she was his and she was always going to be his?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the same way with Silas's dad.
Oh, yeah. So, like, really anything to sever the tie was a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I think, yeah, subconsciously, like, that was helping sever the tie. I'm not going to say that I was only having Tober for that, but
It was an added bonus.
it was an added bonus. So, yeah, it was never really a question of keeping him or not. But yeah, I was working a part-time and a full-time job. And so about 2 weeks before getting laid off from my full-time job, I got laid off from my part-time job. So then it was, okay, I'm newly pregnant. There's still time to find a new job and no one, like, knowing I'm pregnant. I could pretend that I didn't find out until months in.
And at this point, nobody knew yet.
I mean, my doctor.
Because I didn't know and your mom didn't know yet.
Yeah, my doctor, Chuck, and I guess one of my coworkers at the time, because she's the one who brought me the test.
Spidey, right?
Yeah. So that was it. So yeah, stressful because, yeah, now I'm pregnant. Nobody knows. I'm high risk. I'm living in my mom's basement. I have a 2-year-old, or I guess 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old at this point. Yeah, no job, not really any support. So I started looking for a new job while going on EI. But the employment world had changed a lot since I had last looked for a job. It was a lot harder to find a job despite having the schooling and the experience. And for like every interview I did, there was like 30 other people who already interviewed. So hard to find a job. And then the longer I looked, the more I showed. Couldn't necessarily cover up because it was spring now. The weather was getting warmer. It's a little harder to hide than in the winter. I'm also a small person, so I show pretty quick. Yeah, and then it was like, well, I'm not going to hire this person who's going on maternity leave in a few months. So yeah, no job. I was on EI, and then Chuck got laid off not long after I did. So now neither of us have a job. We're still both living in our parents' homes. Yeah, so I somehow kind of pulled it together with you helping me find a place. And by May 1st, I was set to move out of my parents' house and just keep living on EI, keep looking for a job. EI was going to bring me till the end of the year anyway. I was comfortable with what I was getting on EI. So that was fine. It was more so just figuring out what Chuck and I were going to do about living arrangements and having a newborn.
So where we live we're right across the river from Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So east side of Ottawa, across the river on the Quebec side. You were comfortable with the apartment and stuff because, I mean, your rent is phenomenal for where you are. Also, you didn't have a choice but to move this way because of Silas and your pre-existing agreement with his dad.
Yeah, so his dad, not long after we split up, moved out to where he is now, and the plan had always been to eventually buy the house. So it was a permanent living situation for them.
Yeah.
Whereas my situation living at my mom's was temporary. Wasn't what I was planning on doing for the rest of my life. I had found a good job that paid me decent with benefits at this point. So that was already a start. But again, if I wanted to keep my custody agreement and not go back to court to fight for full custody, then I would just have to move closer because his situation was permanent. Mine was only temporary. So this place was perfect. You know, it was 10 minutes from the English school. I had you guys next door. You know, I'm relatively close to the things that I need. I'm closer to Silas's dad. We could keep our custody agreement. My rent was great. My landlord's great. So really, all things considered, the only issue was having to commute back into Ottawa for work. But if I was going to be going on maternity leave at the end of the year anyway, I wouldn't have to be doing that for long, and I wouldn't be doing it in the winter. So that was all great. The issue was when Chuck's parents separated and decided to sell their house and told him he needed to get out. He started looking for a place, and for some reason the place he chose was in the small town not far from where his parents' house was, which was pretty freaking far from where I was going to be moving to, and pretty freaking far considering we now had no car to use.
We're not actually gonna say the name of the town that he moved to, but think Smiths Falls.
Yeah, out there. So for people who don't know, that's about 4 hours busing on a good day. Because it takes me about 2 hours to get into downtown Ottawa from here. So yeah, about 4 hours busing. So, you know, despite my pregnancy appointments being in Ottawa, it's still hard. Still hard to see each other. Still hard to be involved with things. So I was not too impressed with him still moving out there. Especially since, you know,
you had already signed the lease for your apartment.
Yeah.
Before he had even begun searching.
Yeah, I signed my lease in March.
Originally as well, he had said that he was going to move closer to this area so that you guys could make it work.
Yeah. And then there was like, okay, well, what happens when we have a newborn? You're going to come stay with me. He was thinking by that point he'd have his car back, so it would be easier to stay with me and commute to work and help. And then I guess eventually we would find a place together. So my original lease was for 4 months, and then we decided after the 4 months it would be a month-to-month thing. So unless I told him, my landlord, that I was moving, then he would just consider like a new lease to be started. So all of that was kind of up in the air. And he was also looking for a job, but it did not seem like he was trying very hard. He was applying to about 5 jobs a day, and he wasn't exactly doing many interviews. Yeah, so I ended up moving. You know, the only thing that was really not going for me was being able to find a job. But I felt like I was getting things together.
Your life was on its way back to being a little bit more
Stable, I guess.
I don't know if I would say that like your life wasn't stable when you were living at your mom's. It's just it definitely wasn't productive.
No, and I think it was not the healthiest situation considering my relationship with my parents. And so while yes, Silas and I had a good home and a comfortable home, and I was able to provide for him, and I had a good job, and he had everything he needed, and he had a daycare, whatever, it still doesn't make for like a mentally or emotionally healthy living situation. So I think, yeah, moving out just kind of was a step up for us. We had never lived alone, just the two of us. I had never lived alone without a boyfriend or my parents. So yeah, I mean, it felt like I was adulting. And that was a good feeling, especially with another baby on the way. I didn't want to have 2 kids in my mom's house. So I moved. Chuck helped that night. And
That was my first time meeting him.
Yes, that was your first time, as well as Cam and my friend Austin. My mom had already met him a few times. But yeah, but instantly you guys met him and were like, this is not it.
No.
Mm-hmm.
It was not it. It was I don't even know what to say. I do want to backtrack though, because you did say something about moving out, finally feeling independent, and you didn't want to be living at your mom with 2 kids, or at your mom's with 2 kids. I remember a fight that we had had.
Yeah.
I might get emotional on this one because I didn't like saying it to you at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it was a fight, and I don't remember if it was because of Chuck or...
It was not Chuck. It was a previous boyfriend I had.
something along those lines.
Of you're going to end up alone and living in your mom's house with 2 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had said it like very bluntly like that, and I remember you were like, ouch. And at that point, you hadn't taken it well.
No, because it was kind of ouch, because it was like, well, do you not, I guess, think any better of me that like that's just the situation I'm going to find myself in, and like that's going to be my life? Like,
But I wasn't wrong.
yeah, no, but when I first moved into my mom's, like, this wasn't my situation. This was my
No.
situation almost a year and a half into living with her, and my goal was to be out before 2 years. And I mean, I was out before 2 years.
Yeah.
But I very nearly was living in my mom's house with 2 kids. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it also, it was unplanned, right? So yeah, unexpected. Not at all what I saw for myself, but I always saw for myself getting married young and having kids young like my mom did, And I really did think that Silas's dad and I were endgame.
I really did wish that you and Scruffy Bieber were endgame. I mean, I loved the dynamic of like the four of us when we would hang out and like have dinners at my place,
Mhm.
and Silas and Mara would get to play together. And it was great having at that point my cousin and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was hard coming to the reality of like what your guys' relationship was really like, and then having to tell you like, you know, like if you're not okay with your relationship and you're not happy and it's not healthy and it's not what you want,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe you shouldn't be in it.
Yeah, and definitely like, why stay another 5 years? You know, I'm still young. I, could turn my whole life around. I could find someone more suited to me. I could get married still. I could have more kids. Yeah.
There was also the issue of you guys being together and then you kind of not feeling like you were ever good enough
Mm-hmm.
because you wanted to get married and you wanted all of that stuff. And he kept saying, yeah, change this, change this, change this, and I'll put a ring on your finger. And then you would change X, Y, Z, start the alphabet over, and there was always another 26 letters.
Yeah, I felt like, I kept getting better and better jobs. And I did go back to school to do a third program so that I had more opportunities to get better jobs. And I was becoming a little more financially stable and, getting back on track with my mental health and taking care of my diabetes and fixing my relationship with my mom and working on my hobbies and I don't know, just all kinds of things like you said, and it just never was good enough. But that didn't mean like I wouldn't ever be good enough for anyone. So yeah, eventually I left.
Yeah. And then that's kind of how you find you found yourself back at your mom's.
Yeah.
And all of this started.
Yeah.
But now jumping back to where we actually were in conversation.
You meeting Chuck for the first time.
Me meeting Chuck.
But both you and Cam had mentioned there was something up.
Oh, I knew exactly what it was. Like, as I still remember, we had come back to drive the U-Haul, and so Cam and Chuck were in the U-Haul, and then you and I were in my car.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had said, so, and I said, do you want the honest answer, or do you want my yes, Cass, everything is great answer? And you sighed and you went, oh, give me the truth. And I looked at you and I said, he has a substance abuse issue. Don't know what substance it is. He's also got some other shit going on in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he is nowhere ready to be a dad. And he is nowhere ready to be the partner that you need him to be. Or be the person that you need him to be for Silas.
Mm-hmm.
And I had said the last part because while Silas has a dad, whoever comes into your life or whoever will be there in the future, he does need to have a certain
father figure, right? Like, he's still going to be a father figure.
He needs to have like some kind of traits that you admire and that you would want rubbing off on Sai.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw nothing of Chuck. And I'm not just saying that because the episode is Fuck Chuck
Mm-hmm.
or What the Chuck. I am saying this because I genuinely did not like him.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, it was your decision. And you were already pregnant, so what the hell was I going to do?
Yeah.
But I did have it in my mind, though, like, keep your enemies close or your friend's close, but your enemy's closer.
Yeah.
And so I did have a very close eye on him after I met him.
Yeah. But it wasn't even that long after
It really wasn't.
that we split up. He came and helped that one night. He stayed over. And then he went home so he could move into his new place. So by then he had found a place. He had signed a lease. He was also moving that weekend. Then he had come back once to help for another day. And then he never came back again. I did the majority of the stuff in the place. I think I unpacked everything. I built most of the furniture. I think you had come and built a couple things. Otherwise, yeah. I was, 4-5 months pregnant, doing it all. And then I just never stopped.
You were moved in pretty quick, though, because I remember going to work the next day, and then when I got home from work to go help you, most of your stuff was already done.
Yeah.
And it was really just as simple as, like, building the equivalent of IKEA furniture.
Yeah. So I had bought a lot of the stuff while living at my mom's, trying to prepare myself to move so that I wouldn't be stuck paying for all these things once I moved. And that way I was like ready. I had what I needed and it just needed to be set up. I was also hauling ass, like up early, up late, so that most things were done before Silas got there. Because I didn't want him living out of boxes and walking through mazes of boxes and stuff. So, yeah, I was hauling ass. And by this point, Chuck wasn't really coming to a lot of appointments because he didn't have a car. And so we had this agreement where, yeah, I would go to like the diabetes stuff alone to make it easier on him because he wouldn't understand most of it anyway. But yeah, I feel like at that point he wasn't even really coming to ultrasounds either. And also by this point he was disappearing for hours at a time. I wouldn't hear from him for like 5 to 7 hours at a time, and it was always due to a migraine, which is crazy because I ended up in the hospital at one point with a really bad migraine to the point where they were suspecting a brain bleed or meningitis. And I was still able to text him and keep him updated. So I don't know why I couldn't get the same when he had his migraines. And I knew like he wasn't in a good spot with his family. None of them were really on talking terms. He didn't have friends in the area. He was not working. He obviously wasn't with me. So not really too sure what he was up to, but I did not necessarily believe it was migraines every time.
I don't think anybody believed it was migraines.
No. And yeah, so I ended up in the hospital. He came the first time. He had to call into work and let them know. And, at a later date, he had said that that's the reason he had lost his job, was because he had to come to the hospital to be with his pregnant girlfriend who might have had a brain bleed. So I don't think that's on me.
I mean, if you're missing one shift to a hospital, I think it's a little bit fishy, especially if you're telling your boss, like, yeah, my girlfriend's pregnant, I have to take her to the hospital. They think she might have a brain bleed. I think your boss is going to be like, yeah, no, dude, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
Totally understand.
I ended up in the hospital a second time a few days after that, and he didn't come to that one. So that time I was just alone.
Yeah. But that was right after you had moved. That that was the second one, right? Right after you had moved. The
Yeah.
first one you were still living at your mom's.
Yeah. Oh, no, actually. They were both after I moved because they were only
And
like.
he wasn't working anymore.
No, I think he had gotten a job for like a week.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I was in the hospital like right after moving, same month. And then a few days after being in the hospital, I was in the hospital again because I hadn't had much improvements. Um, so yeah, there was that. But I hadn't really seen him for like a month. He wasn't coming to appointments. He didn't come to the second hospital visit. Um, Still getting settled in the new place. Still looking for a job. And then I think it just one day we had a conversation where we were like, you don't need him to have this baby. You can do this on your own.
Yeah, but you had gone to his place
A few times.
a few times. And there were a few things that were happening when you were going over there. Like, it was. I understand, like, not having a lot of money, but it's like, if your pregnant girlfriend is going over there and you know she has diabetes, you don't only have ramen noodle cups and
Water bottles.
water bottles.
There was nothing. The fridge was water bottles and the pantry was ramen. That was it.
Like, you could have been in some pretty big trouble, hypothetically speaking. Thankfully, it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But if your sugar would have spiked or you would have gone too low because of too much insulin or something like that, like,
Yeah.
we both know that diabetes in general can be very difficult. And then add in the fact that you're pregnant, so it's like you have regular diabetes, gestational diabetes. It's a little bit of an extra roller coaster.
Yeah. So there was that. His place was also, it used to be a motel. It converted into apartments. And so the area was a little sketchy. And then on top of all this, his single bed could barely fit us when I wasn't pregnant. And then I was. And so oftentimes I would just get out of the bed after he had fallen asleep and go sleep on the couch because I'm like, this isn't comfortable. We can barely fit on this bed. So, yeah, And then money was obviously more of an issue because he was also laid off. And his car was an issue. And, trying to pay for his place alone and paying his stepdad back for getting the car out of impound, and then paying for these courses, paying to get his license back, paying for the breathalyzer to be installed in the car. It was a lot. And so when I started looking for baby stuff, it kind of just all fell on me. I was the only one looking, planning, building a registry, looking on Marketplace, planning what we needed, doing research, paying for the items, all on me. So.
Yeah. So then I think that's, like you said, we had that conversation where I told you.
I was pretty much already doing it on my own. So it's like, you can do this.
I think you were scared, though, because when you had Sai, you were definitely surrounded by support.
Yeah, it was a much different situation. I was already out of the house for a couple years. Silas's dad and I had a good place. We both had decent jobs with benefits. We were stable, much better situation to be pregnant in and bringing a baby into. Obviously, Silas was planned, so there was a lot more support around it. It wasn't so shocking. October was a completely different story. I was a lot further from my mom. You know, I didn't have much other support. It was a surprise. People were kind of on the fence about it, not as excited. I was already doing most of these things myself from the beginning. So I was a little scary to think, okay, now I'm also going to be completely shutting his dad out. So yeah.
But at that point, you weren't yet thinking, I'm completely shutting him out. It was, I'm not going to be in a relationship with him, so we'll have to figure it out.
But I already knew, like...
He wasn't going to be overly active.
No, because, you know, he already wasn't, and that's when we were together. So I can only imagine after breaking up.
Yeah.
How much less it was going to become. So... yeah, we broke up. I was actually on the way home from an appointment, and I got 40 text messages from him just on the way home, and I had been messaging you at the same time. So I was like, as soon as I get off the bus, I'm not even going to go home first. I'm going to just come to your house.
Yeah.
We can break this all down.
But prior to that day, he had added me to Snapchat, and he was messaging me about every little issue in your guys' relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling him, I was like, I'm her best friend. Like, you can add me on Snapchat and you can have these conversations, but don't pretend that I'm not going to tell her.
Yeah. And even when I'm in the wrong, you tell me to my face what you think, but you're also not going to go and say that shit to this guy I'm dating that you don't even like. It's like, even if he says some shit and you're like, yeah, Cass is in the wrong, you're not going to say that to him. You're going to say it to me. So
I'm going to call you an idiot.
Yeah. You're going to tell me how it is. But I guess what he was thinking was maybe he could get you on his side for all of this. Not sure what he was thinking, because I don't think you'd even do that with a boyfriend of mine that you like. So,
if I didn't do it with my own cousin.
To be fair, you did not agree with most things your cousin was doing.
No, but
that would probably be the one time you would.
Yeah, because at least there, it's like there's family ties. There's, yeah. I'm going to say it, but I freaking hate it. Because he's used this exact line, is that there's supposed to be family loyalty there.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily agree or conform with this whole idea of blood is thicker than water and all of that crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there was going to be one point, it was going to be that one. It wasn't going to be Chuck.
Exactly. He did tell you at one point, it was kind of turned around where he started messaging you some nasty stuff on Snapchat, and then he would block you, and then he would unblock you and say some more nasty things, and then block you again. So I think that, combined with like the 40 text messages I got, proved that he was
mentally unstable.
Yeah, a little unhinged. You know, I did not take him off social media right away because I was considering the fact that I was pregnant with his child, right? But then, you know, that brought on a whole slew of issues as well with some of the things he was posting that were directed at me and whatnot. So eventually I did take him off, and I didn't block his number because I thought, well, if he really wanted to reach out, and know things about the pregnancy and whatever, then he would just text me, which is private. It's between the two of us. It's not bringing public social media stuff into it. So I kept it at that, and I guess for a little bit he was sort of checking in, but it seemed like he brushed things off a lot of the time. I did find out that Tober had a little heart issue, which wasn't anything crazy to be concerned about, but he really brushed it off. and said, I still have the screenshot from this too, actually, that the only thing he was concerned about was jaundice, because he had jaundice when he was born. And that was the only thing he was concerned about, even after telling him about the heart issue and all the complications that could arise just from the fact that I'm diabetic. So that was kind of concerning too.
He was only worried about his genetic input and not yours.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember he kept saying, my son, my son.
Meanwhile, I'm the one carrying this damn baby.
Providing
everything, growing it. Like,
I also remember not once in those 40 text messages did he ever ask how you were.
mm-hmm.
It was always, how's my son doing?
Yeah. How about how am I doing? Because if I'm not doing well, your son's not going to be doing well.
And adding to the mental load at that point, it definitely wasn't making your pregnancy any easier.
No, the stress was insane.
Tober was a big baby, and you did not gain all that much weight that entire pregnancy.
I mean, I gained between 40 and 60 pounds.
Between 40 and 60 pounds, but you were also, what, like 100 pounds soaking wet when you got pregnant?
I was small to begin with, and it was all belly. I didn't really gain it anywhere else.
You had pipe cleaner arms and pipe cleaner legs.
Like Silas would say, noodle arms and chicken legs.
Walk into the public pool in your sunflower bathing. Actually, it wasn't the public pool, because we had the pool in the backyard at that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went to both.
Yeah, but, I mean, you were just a string bean.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just, not long after this, we kind of just didn't hear from him anymore for a while. Anytime I did hear from him was to bring up anything that I was doing. I was single and lonely. So I started sleeping around a little. He didn't like that because I was pregnant with his child. And so I would hear from him about set activities, and he started just harassing me about stuff. It got to a point where he even managed to get himself into my Prime account and change the names of the account. So you can have like your account, your child's account, whatever. He changed the name of my account. He changed the name of Silas's account and added 2 other accounts and put names for those. And they weren't names. They were just vulgar things he had to say. He also tried to hack into my Facebook at one point, and that didn't work. So there was like a slew of things. Very much harassment.
Before you officially ended it, though, there was one final nail in the coffin. And I think it's the last thing that we're going to touch on before we jump into part 2.
Yes.
At the beginning of the episode, we brought up how there was a child from his ex-girlfriend and how Chuck had gotten this child's name tattooed on his neck.
Or his birthday.
Or sorry, yes. Not his name, his birthday. Tattooed on his neck. Where do we even hop in with that?
Okay. So, I did end up reaching out to that child's mother, so his last relationship, to ask her what her time with him was like and what that situation really was, because we started realizing it probably was not what he had been telling us. And so a lot of things were revealed. And that was part of why I finally decided to end things. Basically, he was in this relationship and he was definitely into drugs. He had cheated on her multiple times. He had threatened to kill himself and drove his own car into a tree, which is how he had gotten his stunt driving charge. He was threatening her friends and family members with death. He was harassing her. She ended up having to bring it to the police multiple times. He took her to court to try and take full custody of her child, who he had no biological relation to, because he deemed her an unfit mother. He did not win because she came with a lot of receipts of her own. She started to record literally everything, take screenshots, record dates and times and audio and whatever. So that didn't work. That is ultimately why he had moved back in with his parents to get his life back on track, because he had run so low on money and I guess was devastated by this whole thing. His mental health was not in a good place, whatever. So that was a lot and kind of alarming to unpack, because that is a lot of scary stuff, I guess. And so when he had started harassing me, it came to no shock, really, after finding all this out. And he did make a few threats of his own about how he would get his son no matter what he had to do. And if he had to go through me, he would. And that, yeah, that was his son, and he was going to take him from me, and he was going to take custody and whatnot.
We weren't even necessarily worried about the custody issue, though. I mean, custody is what custody is. That's appointed by a judge or a mediator, and that's in place as a protection to both mom and dad. I think what was more scary to us was exactly what you said, though, is that by any means necessary. And so after we had that conversation, well, you had that conversation, and then we had a conversation, I had equipped my entire house with cameras. We had a camera pointing towards your apartment. We had a camera that was doing my parking, the front of the house, my backyard, and then we also had a camera inside of my house, and we had put one inside of your house, and
I had a doorbell camera.
And
I had also let my landlord and his girlfriend at the time know, because I believe they had a camera set up outside too, and that way they also would know that if they ever saw him around, he was not to be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I did lose a lot of sleep over it. I had a lot of nightmares. I had crazy anxiety about coming home one day and finding him in my apartment, waking up to him being there in the room in the middle of the night, or him hurting me, or showing up when Silas was there, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, didn't make things easier, gave me a lot more unneeded stress, and then yeah, I was struggling with my diabetes because of that then, because not only am I heavily pregnant, but I'm also heavily stressed. And it wasn't regular pregnancy stress about a new baby. It was stress about someone breaking into my home and hurting me and hurting my son.
And your home is one of those places that you're supposed to feel safe.
Yeah.
But on that note, maybe we can jump into a little bit more of that after. But we're going to leave you guys on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yes. There's a lot to unpack there. And yeah, a bit of a cliffhanger of what's going to happen next.
I'm telling you, it doesn't get any lighter.
No, it continues to stay heavy, even months after October was born. So,
to be continued.
To be continued in part 2.
All right, and on that note, bye.
Bye.